Omo Forest Reserve in Ogun State, southwest Nigeria, is renowned for its elusive and endangered wildlife species such as the forest elephants. Human activities like logging, poaching and farming threaten the survival of the delicate ecosystem. In this edition of Green Angle, we explore efforts to protect the reserve, the challenges faced and solutions being implemented for its long-term sustainability. We also examine the water crisis affecting communities worldwide with a visit to Makoko, a waterfront community in Lagos State. Stay tuned for more informative and thought-provoking stories on the environment and our planet. Welcome. I am Esther Mopariola.
Located in Ogun State, Omo Forest Reserve is a biodiverse haven for wildlife, and it is home to some of Nigeria's rarest and most endangered species. But this pristine forest reserve is under threat. The destruction of the forest by human activities such as logging, poaching and farming is posing a severe threat to the survival of the wildlife.
Most of my friends that are doing hunting, I used to call them and give them money. That this animal that you are hunting now, if you finish the animal, your future will not know what they call animal. And they will be looking for the something. You will be buying and look the something in photo. And no more animal in forest and you kill everything. So if government can provide us arms so that we can secure the main forest, not to encroach by the farmers and the poachers, so the something will be able to find like that. We are moving on night. No time we can't get into the forest. When we hear the shotgun from the poachers, so we move inside the forest so that we can arrest them. Well, when we arrest them, the government didn't give us full support.
Ṣé rí ẹran yìí tó bá tán nǹkan tá a máa fi pìtàn lẹ́yìn ọ̀la ni. Bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ni igi tó ń gé yìí nísìnyí igi ti tán o. Nǹkan tá a lè fi pìtàn lẹ́yìn ọ̀la tá a lè jọ gbárùkù tì. Tí ọ̀yàn ò bá wọlé kan pa ẹran ẹ rí i pé ó máa dínkù. Tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀ ṣe ni àwọn forestry guard ń sọ fún wa pé igbó ìjọba la wà ká pa ẹran tá a máa jẹ kì í ṣe pé bóyá kánkán máa pa.
The reserve is one of the oldest in the country, and there's a source of livelihood for local communities who depend on it for timber, non-timber forest products and farming.
Forest resources, they are so significant to humanity because you have people who directly depend on forest and forest resources, and you have those who indirectly depend on forest resources. Globally speaking, you have more than about 6 billion people, 1.6 billion people depending directly and indirectly on forest resources for their livelihoods, income, employment opportunities, and cultural affiliations, and what have you. So for Omo Forest Reserve, it's so important to Nigeria because it's one of the remnant rainforest ecosystem left in the southwestern part of the country.
However, the increasing demand for land, lack of alternatives for livelihoods, and poor law enforcement have led to illegal activities within the reserve.
Our continuing population explosion, you have a lot of pressures on forest resources now, to the extent that the pressures are now straining those forest resources to the extent that we must come together to join hands to say the way we are using them now, the way we relate with the forest resources, shouldn't be continued with because they are unsustainable. We need to have a paradigm shift, like we make lifestyle changes and our attitude generally. We can't continue to see forest resources as where we can only make money. There are a good number of things that we can turn our forest resources into.
Thankfully, The Nigerian government, in collaboration with international conservation organizations, such as the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, has taken steps to protect the forest and its wildlife. The government has introduced a community-based forest management approach, where local communities are engaged in the protection and management of the forest.
If we are talking as a country, Nigeria has one of the highest deforestation rates in the whole world. We rank second, third, and the rate at which we lose our forest landscapes is alarming. And that's why something must be done from the government, major stakeholders, our community people, to see how we can halt, reverse further decline or degradation of our forest landscape, and see how we can sustainably restore. When we now restore, we bring everybody together to say, okay, we don't want to go back to our old ways of doing things. How do we now sustainably manage those restored forest landscape, particularly our forest landscape across where they are still left? You talk about youth employment. Forest offers huge employment opportunities. When you talk about livelihoods, you talk about forest resources. Now we are faced with loss of biodiversity. It's on account of our loss of our forest resources, and also if we must roll back the impact of climate change, we must go back to reforest our degraded forest landscapes and encourage people to sustainably manage what we are restoring, so that we don't continue to run into problems again and still go back to losing them because they are fast declining.
NCF has been working with Ogun State Ministry of Forestry to conserve wildlife in the Omo Forest Reserve. They're also seeking the recognition and upgrade of the reserve to Omo National Park. The upgrade is expected to increase the level of protection, provide more resources for conservation efforts, and attract more tourists to the reserve.
For a number of years now, the Nigerian Conservation Foundation has been making a lot of efforts to do a lot of reforestation program, habitat regeneration, knowing fully well that if the habitat of the wildlife is safe, then there's hope, there's future for the wildlife.
Federal government has the regulatory ministries. State governments too equally have those that are saddled with maintenance, management, regulation of our forest estates. And when we come together, we pull all our resources together. We must, first of all, come together, like I said, to encourage public-private partnerships. Let the corporate individuals come together to invest. They must try to offset their carbon footprints on the environment, and that is encouraging them to invest on forest resources management in a sustainable way. Also, we must step up environmental education, awareness, and public engagement. We go back to our laws and policies and see many of them are obsolete. And just last year, around April or thereabout, we launched the National Forest Policy, revised edition, to govern the way we relate with our forest resources and how to safeguard them for future use.
Omo Forest Reserve is a critical habitat for Nigeria's wildlife, and it is our responsibility to protect it.
Tobacco not only causes severe health issues such as cancer, heart disease and respiratory problems, but it also has devastating environmental effects. The production and disposal of tobacco products contributes to deforestation, water pollution and soil degradation. While the entertainment industry often glamorizes smoking, enticing young people to try it, and with around 8 million deaths annually attributed to tobacco use, urgent action is required to prevent this number from reaching about 10 million by 2030.
Tobacco is a dangerous product that causes many serious illnesses like cancer, heart disease and breathing problems. Sadly, every year, around 8 million people die from using tobacco, and this number could go up to 10 million by 2030 if nothing changes. The entertainment industry, like movies and music videos, often shows smoking in a cool and exciting way, and this can make young people want to try smoking even though it is bad for them.
So when young people see those kind of things, they think maybe when they're under pressure, when there's tension, they need to smoke. So we needed to correct that impression. And all what I've just mentioned is a fallout of some investigations we did in 2019, which showed that the prevalence of smoking and smoking paraphernalia in Nigerian movies now. The films, Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, you have a lot of smoking. Now the practitioners, script writers, movie producers, distributors, they are all on board with the need to do something about smoking in movies.
In Nigeria, there are laws that say tobacco advertising is not allowed in movies and entertainment. But some people think that these laws need to be stronger. Some movie actors want the government to do more to stop young people from smoking.
It is not exactly why it should be banned in Nollywood movies. It's that there is already a ban on tobacco or smoking on screen, on TV, in films. Now they have come up with various laws to also restrict further the use of tobacco. Smoking is very addictive. They have gotten into such things as product display, product endorsements, and the laws have come out totally banning these activities. Level of danger that tobacco in itself poses to society, it becomes imperative that we must be able to do something to curb this.
In addition to this harmful effects on human health, smoking is also detrimental to the environment. Cigarette butts, which are the most commonly littered item in the world, take years to decompose and can pollute waterways and harm wildlife.
There are direct environmental impacts. Cigarette butts in the environment, once they find a way into water sources, they contaminate the environment. So from tobacco growing, which involves the use of dangerous chemicals, to those who grow tobacco and interact with those chemicals, a lot of children too. For you to cultivate tobacco, you have to remove everything else. So the chemical kills, exposes those who use it to sickness. The chemicals also destroy microorganisms and other shrubs, other things that will make an environment truly an environment. The burning, which is the curing process, and what it emits into the environment, and those who directly interact with this and inhale it, to the production itself, to consumption and discarding, along all those chains, tobacco is a killer.
Smoking is a harmful habit that has negative consequences on both individuals and the environment. Quitting smoking is an essential step in creating a healthier and cleaner world. By working together and utilizing available resources, we can reduce the prevalence of smoking and its associated harms.
Green Angle returns in just a moment. Stay with us.
Illegal bushmeat is on sale in our cities, risking extinction and our health. We've become a centre for ivory and pangolin smuggling. So please report wildlife crime and say no to illegal bushmeat. And let's work together to win for Nigeria. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
The world is experiencing a serious water crisis that endangers the health and welfare of people and communities worldwide. Makoko, a waterfront community in Lagos State, is one of many communities facing this challenge every day. Now we've visited the community to learn more about the difficulties its residents are experiencing.
Water is a basic human right, but for millions of people around the world, it is a luxury. In many parts of the world, people struggle every day to access clean water and sanitation, a necessity that many take for granted. But for those affected by the water crisis, it is a daily challenge.
Makoko, a waterfront community in Lagos, Nigeria, struggles with access to clean water due to poor quality and high prices. With a population of about 100,000, residents here face health risks from contaminated water sources.
Most of the waste generated from this community finds its way into the lagoon, which makes it unsafe for consumption and other domestic users.
With a population of about 100,000, residents here face health risks.
Mary, a mother of two with another on the way, tells me she spends more than she can afford buying water from vendors, making it a luxury that many cannot afford. She, like many others here, want a situation where they don't have to depend on the contaminated water to meet other domestic needs.
Yeah, we no get water. To use water na problem. But we dey find person wey go give us water. But before we use water, if light dey, 125 litre is 1,000.
But the place where I go fetch water,
light no
far
dey,
from here.
we no go see
If I
water.
fetch am,
Now they go
to
use
carry am
petrol.
enter inside.
They go use petrol to pump the water before we see
The
water.
situation in
And we dey
Makoko
beg
is
God,
made worse by the
see,
fact that
God
there are
to
no
bring
proper
person wey
sanitation
go give us
facilities
water,
in the
and
area.
water na im be our own problem.
Many here
for this
practice
Makoko.
open defecation, which leads to the contamination of water and possible spread of diseases.
There are big canals outside when it's raining, so they open them and they flourish into the community. So that have been affecting the water. If you look at the water very well, the water is dirty, and when it's raining, when they open those big canals outside, those things flourish into the community, and it's really making this water to look dirty. So that's why we have to do a lot of work to make sure the water is clean.
Millions of people around the world lack access to clean water and sanitation, which poses a significant threat to their health and well-being.
We also want to speak to the subject.
Rights activists say the theme of this year's World Water Day, Accelerating for Change, reinforces the need for the government to look into proven solutions to the water crisis.
We reiterate our support for public democratic control of water resources. We also call for increased funding of the water sector of our public water utilities. Water is life. We must continue to safeguard the sanctity of life, not just as civil society, labor unions, communities of water just like this, but also as government that oversees water governance.
Governments, civil society organizations, and private individuals are working to improve access to clean water in vulnerable communities around the world. In Lagos, the government has partnered with different stakeholders to improve investment in infrastructure and technologies that would enhance access to clean and safe water.
The government on its own has actually embarked on building a large water treatment works, which is the second Adion water treatment works. Adion is a 70 million gallons a day water treatment facility. The government has embarked on building the second phase, which is an additional 70 million gallons of water. Now, this water, of course, is to complement what is actually there on the ground now. There are various other schemes that are actually in the pipeline. There is a master plan that the state has, and the agency also has tapped into, with the view that we will be able to at least match the demand for water for the state.
State governments, you have agencies that actually provide drinking water to rural and semi-rural areas across the state. Like the state government from environment, as we commemorate the World Water Day, we ensure that we give facilities to communities that are water stressed to ensure that gradually we bridge the gap that we have in the water sector.
The lack of access to clean water is a global crisis that threatens the health and well-being of millions of people around the world. Therefore, collaborative efforts are encouraged to be the key to improving access to clean water in vulnerable communities and creating a healthier and more equitable world for everyone.
And that's it on the show. Thank you so much for watching. If you have comments or stories you'd like to share with us, you can send it to my Twitter handle at TVC. We'd love to hear from you. Until I come your way next time, remember, together we can build a sustainable world. I am Esther Makwariola. Bye for now.